That's a 3 minutes heads up to Karen at the end. Yeah. So that we can wrap it.
All right, live.
All right, let's
Well,
go.
good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Green Room. We have a really, whoops, hold on.
That's all right. Yeah, it's all good.
Ding, ding.
All right, so where are they?
Oh, because we're not up.
Yeah.
Oh, we could just be voices.
Well, we
today.
could be. Well, that's okay too.
Oh,
There we are.
And there we
That's
go.
all right. So, all right, listen,
All right,
Don's
welcome-
remote today, but we got
Dawn,
Kara
yeah.
behind the
All right,
screen.
welcome to the Green Room, everybody. And yes, today we have Kara behind the scenes instead of Dawn. Dawn's
That's
in
right.
Atlanta, soaking up the good old peach everything up there.
Absolutely. Well, we got a great guest. We
We
have Brian
do.
Morales, who's running for Florida Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Affairs on the Democratic side. And listen, it is election season. We had Kennedy King,
It is.
which to me always kind of kicks off.
It
right?
does kind of the election season, and
Right.
primaries are going to be coming up sooner than we know.
So it's
and
pertinent.
it is.
And if you're
pertinent.
interested in progressive thought in Florida, and I'll let Ryan, go further into this, I mean, listen, we need to have a strong voice this year.
God, we really do.
And-
Just because of the crap show that happened up in Tallahassee, this is reason enough for people to vote for local elections. I know people wait for the big ticket items, the state senate, presidencies. You got to vote local too, and make sure you vote in people who have your special interest. I have to bring up just so because our listeners tune into a lot of things.
Absolutely.
We kind of had a big win here in Sarasota, and Ryan, I don't know if you're aware.
Yeah,
but-
wait to hear this one.
Wait till you hear this one. Yeah. So I don't know if you're aware of Rumble. They're a social media platform that is a Russian propaganda machine based out of Canada. Well, our county commissioners in Sarasota decided with the EDC to go ahead and grant them $825,000 of our tax money to set up shop in Longboat Key. Meanwhile, Rumble itself is going on to the exchange slated anytime this quarter for $2.1 billion. Yet our county commissioners thought it was nice to give them $825,000 of our tax money. Anyways, we put up a stake. We met them this past Tuesday or Tuesday, they were supposed to have met at 9 a.m. Our county commissioner at 1 p.m. to hear the complaints of the people and take a vote of what they were going to do. Our county commissioners, believe it or not, decided to push the meeting up till 9 a.m., not announce it to anyone. They did vote on it. They did vote to rescind all of the money, not only to Rumble, but for all the EDC and projects going forward. But it was
all the other projects going
the other
forward, though, as
projects.
well.
Yes. Going
So throw
forward.
the baby out with the bathwater,
you know
so
what
to speak.
happened? I think they couldn't.
They're cowardly.
They were cowardly, so they didn't want to single out just Rumble. And Commissioner Dieter even made a slick little comment of, I guess we don't have to mention the R word. But interestingly enough, what happened? They took the vote 5-0. They didn't want to hear. There were still people who showed up.
I was thinking, is that Rumble or Russian?
Yeah,
or
Russian
what's
Rumble,
the R word?
Yeah, Russian Rumble.
Right.
And so it was funny though, Commissioner Mayo shut down the chambers and he turned the lights off. So 12 o'clock, he didn't even allow the public say.
So the press showed up for the 1 o'clock meeting.
press
So this was
showed up,
a series of
It
meetings,
was
Ryan, that's been going on. Ruta's been
crazy.
leading the charge. We have a huge Ukrainian population here in Northport,
Yes,
which is the
massive.
city just south of us here in
Yeah,
Venice.
with a huge population of Ukrainians, huge.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
And besides just the generalities of it, it's a fight for freedom. Listen, Ryan, we always start off the green room. We tend to go these days a little, well, it's always political, but international even. Listen, the Russian battleship that was
Moscow or whatever.
No,
it was.
yeah, the Moscow. No,
yeah.
it's the battleship. But I thought it was such a great line on
Yeah,
Morning
it's a
Joe this
Moscow.
morning when they said there's, I think it was Admiral Stavridis, who's on Morning Joe. He spoke to it. He goes, they teach you that on day one of Naval Academy. Don't let them sink your battleship.
Do you remember Battleship? I used to love
I
playing.
do remember Battleship.
Don't hit my battleship. You have the little 3 pegs in the ship.
But we know that we're girding for a lot of pain coming up in Ukraine. And I really like the attitude so far
The
of
pain is
continuing to
awful.
supply Well, they need arms wise, but Ruta, I'm really getting to the point. It's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not enough.
It really is.
They need to stop him. They need to stop him now because he's basically wiping out the whole country. He's like, if I can't have it, then neither can you. And that to me is the worst attitude, and he needs to be stopped. And I'm sorry, but the U.S. spends trillions, should I say, on mercenary forces, because the reason most people don't realize one of the largest expenses that the United States military budget has is basically mercenaries.
I know.
That is pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, kind of know that one.
Yeah, no, and I mean, most people don't realize that. They don't realize that most of our military budget is going out to third-party militaries. And these guys are basically running around with no responsibilities like any normal military. So, if that's the case, send those guys in. Do what they got to do.
That's what so just so that you have some background, Ryan, I actually have a defense company on the side. So there are mercenaries everywhere. There are.
I have friends that are mercenaries. I know about it because I talk to them all the time. They fly out to the Middle East all the time, and they come back and they're like, I made my money for the year. I'm good.
You guys probably have some cross friends.
We probably have cross friends because that's what I do. So my guys go out, they go out on contracts and then they come back. They make enough in 3 months that they can live the next 9 months pretty much free.
But it's crazy because it used to be, back in the day, having a government position was the most ideal thing to do. Now it's become the other way around, where screw the government, that shit's failing. Let me go over here. But because people have made it fail, they've never invested into it properly because they've just been trying to figure out how to squeeze the last cent out of the damn thing.
And it's kind of silly because if you look at the $1 trillion budget, really, if they actually put that money to better use than just mercenaries and these accounts that they have in the Middle East and all over the world,
honestly, they might actually have something.
Yeah, they might actually have something. And
most people don't realize.
One of the interesting things about the Russian military is that so much has been siphoned off, to the oligarchs and all that their equipment is basically garbage.
But you know what, the Russian
and I know a bunch of those guys too that stole the stuff and made their money because they sold it to somebody in the Middle East or whatever. I know guys that had tanks and they sold them off and they made
sold
money.
Them to Afghanistan. They sold them. I mean, they sold them off to everybody. And even in the 80s, so like the Russian military, they've always have this big bravado, and it's also like every country is a propaganda machine for themselves. There is. The United States is a propaganda machine. We all are. We're like number one. We're number one. Every country proves that. So for Putin's easy. He has a market of controlling his media. So for him, his guys, Russian life outside of the oligarchs is pretty plain. I mean, it's gotten much better, but I was actually listening. It was interesting. I was listening to this. She's one of the diplomats in Russia, and I listen to the foreign news channels because I speak other languages. So
I знаю по-русски as well. So I speak Russian very well.
So what they do is, this woman was saying, she goes, to the average Russian, she said, it's interesting. She goes, the newscaster was saying, she goes, well, our people started getting used to more of a Western way of life. We have, exchange, we have commerce now from the West. And this woman said, she goes, well, that will come to an end. And she goes, well, what do you think the people, how will they react? She goes, they don't have a choice and they're going to like it. And that's the Soviet mentality. Wow. And it's going back to that.
Because Kara knows mindset. I speak to that in the rooms, but that's really where I think the revolution comes from, is from the fine tailor in Moscow that used to be able to sell to Budapest and everywhere, right? Or the baker or the butcher that used to have that level of commerce. But that's the cities. That's the cities versus the rural part of Russia, and very much here like the States, I think, to a certain extent. And let's get into a little bit more local politics.
And now we can actually introduce our guests, because we got our little spiel out and our frustrations out.
We do, but Ryan's taken the huge step. Ryan has taken the huge step of running for state office. Commissioner of Agriculture. It's a Herculean
task to run a state of Florida. It's huge.
It is, and of course,
especially when I'm running against Senate President too.
For sure, we'll get to that in a second. And it's, of course, what's held by Nikki Fried right now. And it's critical to the medical cannabis space and the hemp space, of course. but consumer affairs. We need a Democratic voice somewhere on that cabinet, of course. And Nikki's been great that way. I think really. So Ryan, please, let's cue it up. Let's cue it up for you.
You got the 3 minutes.
You got it.
Go for it.
So, right. What I always say is, my name's Ryan Morales. I'm running to be the 13th Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services here in the state of Florida. I'm also looking to make history as the first Latino commissioner in the South. Okay. So not just in Florida, but in the whole South of the United States. And I think most of the US, I think there's only been one Latino commissioner, and he's up in Illinois. So we're looking to make history, at least here in the South, and make sure that we're the first Latino to actually represent the people that actually work very hard to put food on your table. Yes, but when it comes to the consumer services section of things, I am uniquely qualified because I'm actually somebody that comes from the internet development and cybersecurity world. So for over 25 years, I've been involved in basically building on the internet and keeping people safe online. Worked with major corporations, throughout my lifetime, places like Wall Street, Miele, even Polaris and Disney. So, we're very familiar with working with big names and making sure that people are doing, getting what they're supposed to get and not something else when they're visiting somebody's website, which usually tends to be the issue. You walk away from somebody's website and you got a little gift. So we're trying to avoid that. And we're also making sure that we avoid any scams really at a large scale when it comes to cybersecurity. And I think the state of Florida really needs to step into the future when it comes to that. Yes. And not just in cybersecurity world, but even in agriculture. There's this thing that we call precision agriculture. And to me, that is the way to go. Basically, it's smart farming, using basically devices, sensors, all these things that just automate the whole farming process, even down to the picking of the fruit and the vegetables, to a science. And even you could even do the fertilization and things like that right through this whole system, and do it to a point where there is no runoff. And that basically is one of the main things I'm looking to make sure that we do, because one of my biggest goals as the next commissioner is to make sure that we clean up our waterways. My goal is to make sure that we restore the Everglades, clean up Piney Point, clean up Indian River Lagoon, and basically reset this whole state back to a good spot so ecologically it could restore itself. It's not going to happen in one term, but it needs to start happening now, right? The way I see things is if Florida does not clean up its waters, we're not going to have tourism anymore. Our tourism season is being cut short because of these algae blooms, and people not realizing how much that hurts the state of Florida. There's thousands upon thousands of people that depend on tourism to make their income. And when you're cutting them off by 2-3 months because of the algae blooms, that's a huge hit to your wallet, especially during busy season, because that's usually when it happens. And yeah, it might be rainy season, but hell, there's still tourists here because they're off. Their schools up north are off during that time, and they come down here not really knowing that the weather is just going to be crappy, but we still need our clean waters. So, one of the big things that I've always talked about is, if the manatees die off, Florida's dead. And that's my biggest concern, is making sure that we save the manatees, save our dolphins, save all our wildlife, because
the canaries in the mine shaft, let's face it.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly it. If the manatees die off, we got a serious problem. That means Florida is sick. Florida is going to just be destroyed. And the way I see it right now, my opponent is, basically that villain, that bad guy who is.
Let's get there because we just went through an entire legislative session with, Senator, you're referring to Senator Simpson, of course,
Yep.
Who was Senate president, who is pretty well acknowledged to be running for, Commissioner of Ag on the Republican side. And it's kind of, set up for him, if you want to talk about a softball lob by the Republican Party, for him to roll on in. But we know he's not a friend. We know he's not a friend of environmental issues and stuff like that. He had the forum up in the Senate to do these
he's
things.
not a friend to cannabis. So
well, we know that.
700,000 votes right there that should go to you. Honestly, like we need to.
It's so, and that's kind of one of the things that I'm pushing. Basically, is the fact that him and Ron DeSantis are so anti-cannabis.
They are.
And if Biden just gets this legalized in the next few months, which I see it happening, I do. I see it happening before the midterms. I see him legalizing it. So if that happens,
I'd love to hear your opinion a little bit more on that, Ryan, because that's a little bit, different than what I've heard.
You know what? It's one of those hanging fruit issues, and he knows we're going to need it for the midterms. So I see it being a setup for us in the midterms to help us win. And that's the only way that he's going to help us win is by doing that.
And actually, that makes sense because then he can still retain the Senate and the House. So
yeah, he's going to need to do that, and it's been something that my team has been suggesting to them and everybody, because at this point right now, how else can we win in Florida? Everybody believes that Ron DeSantis could do no wrong. Meanwhile, we're like, have you seen what he's been doing?
You live here, do you?
Well, no, for sure.
But when they're hearing their echo chamber, they're not realizing that all the wrong that he's doing. They just hear rah, rah, rah. Yeah, he's doing it for us and all our people. And I'm like, no, you fucking idiots. You're not thinking. Why are you not paying attention?
Pay attention.
It's scary. You know why I think that? Listen, I think what gets paid attention to is that there is a segment of the population that doesn't seem to mind autocratic rule.
Yeah, let's
and if it's okay for them, you know what? Then it's okay. They don't worry about the marginalized. Okay, they don't worry about the disadvantaged.
And that kills me because most of these people recognize themselves as Christians, and that's just what boggles my mind. And I'm sorry, I'm not as they would call a believer, because a long time ago, as I like to say, like George Carlin says, I was Catholic until the age of reason. So I asked too many questions. I got thrown out of the church because I asked too many questions. And it wasn't because I was being rude or anything like that. I wanted to know. And I asked the right questions, apparently, because it got me thrown out, because they didn't want to hear those questions, because I was asking things that were very hard for them to answer. And living where I lived, we saw a lot of things. So, of course, I was going to question things, because I'm like, if there is such a God, then why does he allow these things to happen?
Where was that, Ryan? Where did you grow up?
As a child, I bounced around a lot as a child. I was born in New York. I lived in Florida as a kid. I lived in New Jersey as a kid as well. But, I usually, when I say growing up, I'll always mention New Jersey, because that's probably what I remember the most.
Yeah, no, I thought I heard a little bit of an Eastern,
there's definitely a Northeast accent.
And why Commissioner of Ag and Consumer Affairs necessarily? There are other offices, that you, and maybe easier ones, quite frankly, as a lift, where does your passion come into to get into this particular office?
So most people don't know my story with cannabis, and most people think it's from just being a DJ and having fun with it. And so I smoked cannabis when I was 16, and didn't really think nothing of it. It was just something that we did. I wasn't really a drinker, and never really have. I've probably not had a drop of alcohol in over 15 years now, so not my thing. So cannabis is really close to me, mainly because of the fact that prior to me moving to Florida, I had been involved in a workplace accident. I knocked myself out basically, and had nearly paralyzed myself. So for 3 months, I couldn't walk properly. The doctor I was visiting at the time was very well aware of what was going on with the opioid epidemic, and was like, I'm not giving you anything. He's like, I don't want to get you hooked on anything. He's like, I'm sorry. He goes, I know you're in pain. He goes, but you're better off calling your drug dealer and getting some weed. He goes, I know what I'm telling you is illegal, but I think this would help you better than me putting you on opioids. And to this day, I thank Dr. Patel up in New York for that, because he really saved my life. He could have really put me in a bad situation and made my life worse, but no, instead he gave me the option to really just heal myself naturally.
The option. That's what in 2022, Ryan, I tell my patients every single day. And once again, Kara's sitting behind the screen. She knows it. They play Barry Bingo here. They put up on the squares the things they know they're going to hear out of me more than 5 times a day.
He's turning 66.
But I'm turning 66. But I do tell people that it's my imperative in 2022 to be that 2022 doctor, or whatever year it was that Dr. Patel was progressive enough to allow you the opportunity, to have that adjunct, okay, to conventional healthcare. And to me, it's not either or, it's find that best balance, right? And it's the avoidance of that stuff that will ultimately kill you, right?
Well, definitely. And we have to think about things like that because, so I recognize as a Native American, and that's one of the things that I got taught as a child is that you will always find what will heal you in nature.
Always.
And, for my campaign, that's one of the biggest things I talk about is basically how do I heal nature with nature? How do I heal us with nature? And it's basically removing the components that will make you sick, the chemicals, the things like that. And pharmaceuticals are those chemicals. I refuse to take medication like that. And I try to keep myself healthy to avoid that purpose. The only real medication I take is marijuana or cannabis because I know it's a plant.
So Ryan, it can be an interesting campaign, and let me put it this way, okay? So you're, and not to out anybody by HIPAA, and if you're not, then tell me so. I assume you're a medical cannabis card holder here in the state of Florida.
Yep.
Right, as is Nikki Fried, and of course, it's pretty well known that I am as well. So as you know, there was the candidate, I think, from Mississippi, was it, or Alabama, who actually smoked, right, who actually has come out and smoked the joint on here. I think it would be a very interesting face-to-face debate with Senator Simpson, right, to that extent about what his beliefs are. And does he want the citizens of Florida on pharma? Does he want to increase access to medical cannabis, right? And I think you'd get some pretty darn good press, Ryan, if you would be that second candidate, that may and I think, knowing funny, you and your attitude, I think you might be that candidate. So
funny enough, we plan
in the green room when you're ready.
So tomorrow night, if you're not busy.
I know there's events. No, come on, because I know you have big events coming up.
So tomorrow,
I wanted to have you on this week.
Tomorrow, I'm technically hosting my 420 fundraiser, if you get my drift.
Oh, cool.
So we're hosting it at my hemp farm over here in Claremont, and we actually have a slew of cannabis industry people coming to join us to really just kick it off and let people know what's going on and why we need to make sure that we legalize cannabis here in the state of Florida.
So that's Friday.
Friday at 8
I'm off on Fridays. Where's Claremont anyway? I don't know this.
Claremont. Yeah, Claremont is not too far from Disney. It's actually on the west side of it.
Because I think the Dab Days is the next day, right, in Orlando?
Yes, we're basically the pre-party to Dab Day.
The pre-party to Dab Days, because I was invited to Dab Days. Patty wants me to go to Dab Days. We have been so busy, as you know, Ruta. And I know, but that might get me there. So you're Claremont, but please cue it up more.
Yeah. So at 8 p.m. on Claremont, location's technically secret, but if you go to my website, moralesforflorida.com, you'll actually be able to see the information to register and get your tickets. We have some awesome music. We have, like I said, it's basically the pre-party for that event. And it's also Peter Sess's birthday party too. So we're getting everybody together basically to just come talk about cannabis and really have some good time and raise some money, because we got to raise a lot of money for this campaign. So I need everybody to understand.
How are you doing on fundraising? And
I'll be honest with you, crappy. I need help big time. I need a lot of help. And, I have to reach 3 million by the end of June. So I really need to kick it up a notch. I've been traveling a lot and just kind of doing things on my own. So I really need to just get help, because the party's not helping the way we were expecting to get help from them. And
you're going to build your own team, honestly.
Yeah, that's basically, you're on your own is how they got you. So, and I get that, and that's fine. This is not my first time at this pony. So I know. I don't
know. I don't get that, quite frankly. I think you should be getting more support.
You should, because like the Republicans on their side, that's all they do. As soon as
they pump money through the PACs into
my God, as soon as you say that you're running, they give you money, they give you followers that you need on social media, they give you all these things. And meanwhile, we're sitting here with a thumb up our butts, and it's like, that's not cool.
Is there a primary for you at all, Ryan, or no?
As of right now, it does not look like it. And word on the street is that I am the Democratic nominee and that everybody's supposed to be helping me fundraise, basically.
So let's talk about the cannabis program and what you see. And I'm not going to put my frustration on you. Well, but you tell me how you feel about what you've seen over the legislative session.
And I cannot stand it. This 35-day flower thing is pissing me off. You know what? I wouldn't mind if we were able to get 4 ounces, but you got me limited it at 2.5, and I'm sorry, I blow through that quickly. I smoke flower all day long, and I smoke bowls. I smoke, and I can't even smoke blunts, or I can't smoke joints because I know it'll disappear in a heartbeat. Then if 2.5 ounces. So
you don't want to go to the legacy market. You don't want to go to the legacy market. Nobody should have to go to the legacy market.
No.
Listen, Ryan, this is important from the consumer services side of things. And it used to be an urban legend, but now it's not.
Yep.
There has been fentanyl exposure in cannabis, right?
Yep.
And it was always an urban legend, and we've talked about it in other green rooms, but the smoking of a joint with fentanyl in it won't kill you because the heat destroys the fentanyl, turns into other bad byproducts that are not good for you, but they won't kill you. But the point is, if fentanyl is within cannabis and you crunch it up to roll a joint and then lick your fingers and lick the joint, then you get that mucosal exposure. And it has now killed 2 documented people. And I used to laugh about it as an ER doc, but you can't laugh about it now.
No, you can't.
Nobody with 1 dose overdoses out there. Okay. That's a 2022 thing.
Let's get serious. I'm one of these guys that will talk to you about, let's legalize cocaine. Let's legalize all these other drugs because people are going to do them. The war on drugs has been lost. Congratulations, drugs, you won. We screwed up. Let's stop arresting people for self-harm and let's focus on actual medical, if they need medical attention because they're addicted, let's focus on that. But at the end of the day, why are we demonizing these things that people are still doing? They're still risking life in jail and all this shit to do for a weekend of fun.
They still do it.
So it's always been the nature of how mankind is wired, quite frankly, to a certain extent, and there is an addictive personality.
Correct.
That's why in the appropriate cannabis setting, we teach that, we educate about that, we warn about that. And if you don't, then you're not doing the appropriate thing in medical cannabis,
Correct. But just across the board, it's a medical problem. If somebody is addicted to something, it is a medical problem. It should not be a crime. Now, if you commit a robbery or you kill somebody, then that's a crime. But just being caught with a joint or being caught with drugs in general, just stupid. Now, yes, some drugs make people do stupid shit, but that's part of the whole education.
For the ATF, that for the drug enforcement, for not DEA, but like ATF.
I know the guys that come down on them. It would actually help because you could use that money for medical purposes.
I was going to say, then you can actually put people into programs to get them not addicted to everything.
And the funny thing is, this has happened in other countries already, and they're doing phenomenal. They've dropped their addiction rates, they dropped their overdose rates, they've dropped everything. Portugal, Argentina, wonderful, great news from them. So why are we behind these countries? These countries are not first world countries like we are.
we don't lead the way on a lot of social policy. Right?
So
that.
Even solar energy. Can we talk about solar for a second?
Oh my God! So
my
buddy over there, Mr. Simpson, is funny because he bashed all these things. He basically screwed the solar industry here in Florida. But guess what? He owns a solar farm that he just bought recently because he forced some farmer to lose his property. I just saw the reports. He forced a farmer to lose his property and bought the property for $1.5 million from the bank on a short sale type of thing, and then just sold it off for $45 million to Tico for some solar farming, which he still gets a cutoff for the next freaking 15 years or whatever it is.
Ethical guy.
How is that even possible? How is that even ethical? So he basically said, F Floridians with solar, you're not going to get paid for solar anymore, but I am.
But I am.
Like, come on. So that's basically what this man is doing. And that's kind of why I'm pissed off when it comes like solar. Like, this place is called the Sunshine State. Like, it should be like their biggest product, if anything. Like,
it should be, you would think.
And allow people to do it. Invest in the people so they can do it. I mean,
and honestly, like, you go to other states, like I was in Hawaii last year, and they're like almost entirely solar. Every house has solar panels. Every business has solar panels. And it's like, we're the Sunshine State, and like, where's the solar energy here? It's crazy if you think about it.
And then you hear the opposition to it, and it just doesn't make any sense too, because I'm like, so what if we get rain a few times of the year? And so what if there's a few clouds?
I think it depends if you're spelling sense, SENCE or CENTS.
It's a lot.
Because listen, money is money, and that's one thing I've learned about Florida You know, you got to follow the money, and you got to follow the money. You know,
yeah,
and Ryan, I'll cue you up for one last question. I'm of interest in hearing your answer. How do you think it's going to come down with the 22 expected Florida licenses, and of course that Pigford license? Do you think that's going to happen seamlessly and smoothly, or do you think they're going to slow that down as well?
No, that's going to get slowed down, and I'm still wondering what's going on with the Black Farmers license, why that hasn't been handed out. There was supposed to be 5 of those already gone, and not one has gotten it. And I've gotten those complaints from that whole group of people, because they came up to me and they're like, you do realize we haven't gotten our license yet, and we've been in line waiting for this sucker. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And then when I looked into it, I'm like, oh shit, you guys are right, you guys have not gotten your license, and that was supposed to happen back in 2017.
Well, it's been a long time, you know. March 23rd, I think they were supposed to submit. So we'll see how that comes down. But, you know, I tell all the patients, 22 more dispensaries. They say, how do you know that? And I said, because the state's obligated to give us 4 more MMTC licenses with every 100,000 patients, right?
Yep.
And it's one of those things that I'm hoping that they do. If they're going to close all these other loopholes, okay, awarding the BioTrack for seed to sale, tie up this 4 ounce, you know, isn't it crazy, Ryan, how the state doesn't want you possessing more than 4 ounces of flower at any one time?
But I don't get whose stupidity was that. That's just the dumbest thing in the world.
It's in the statute. It's in the statute, unfortunately. But the point is, they don't have an understanding of how patients look for sales and, you know, this and that. And they and ultimately, I don't think it's going to be as disruptive as it seems to be once people understand it. But once again, it merits communication and education.
I mean, look, I'm a specific strain type of guy, and sorry to give Robert a shout out here, but I'm a big fan of black tuna. I can barely find black tuna when I go to the store. So when I do find it, I try to stock up. And now with this whole rolling 35-day thing, it pisses me off. Like before, it gets in the way because now I'm like, okay, like, so right now, if I wanted to go to the store and buy flour, I can't. I have to wait till the 18th. And even then, I'm only going to get released, maybe an ounce, because I bought an ounce 35 days ago at that time.
How I describe it, because I've been playing the slot machines lately a little bit. Point is, it's a rolling, come around the reel, because your flour comes back to you. Right, you just have to kind of know when you buy it. But anyway, listen, those are the intricacies of the program that make it so important that we have an advocate for us up in Tallahassee. So Ryan, tell us how you can get involved.
Yeah, we have 1 minute to wrap up. So give us.
So basically, if you guys could visit my website, moralesforflorida.com, you could donate, you could volunteer, you could learn more about me and my stances. I even talk about psychedelic mushrooms and how they need to be legalized for medicinal use as well. So there's a lot of things you can find out about me there. And yeah, basically. Listen,
I lean this way because I got to go with this. Oh, it's God, I can't get that right. Who's your friend? Sitting behind us.
That's my boy Lennox. That's my new pup. I rescue boxers, so he's the 3rd one in the family now. And yeah, we've been dealing with him. He has epilepsy, so it's been interesting to deal with a dog with epilepsy. And
it's funny how you get to the end of a green room sometimes and find out really where somebody's heart is to that. So you rescue boxers.
Yeah, I love my dogs. I'm a huge animal lover. So for me, animal safety is a big thing. And that's probably one of the things you will see me during my administration is go after making sure that we take care of our animals and not abuse them. So abusers and people who like dog fighting and chicken fighting and all that stuff, yeah, you're not going to like me. I'm going to be your worst enemy. So coming after guys like that is going to be key for me.
Great. Well, we wish you luck, and we'll probably have you on before election season, I am sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good luck.
But and tomorrow, you better be coming April 15th, Claremont. It's on my website. Make your way over. Definitely will be a big 420 event for all of us. So we definitely want to hang out with everybody, and we will be filming for that purpose too. As you spoke about the gentleman lighting the blunt, we want to show people smoking together and enjoying themselves, and that's basically what we're going to work on.
All right. Well,
thank you everybody for tuning in. Our thoughts and prayers are always with you. Ukraine, Slava Ukraini. And we'll see you next week in the green room. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Ryan, do well.
Cheers. No more wars. Thank you.
Thank you.